I'm delighted to be here, notwithstanding the electronics, and share with you a few thoughts on this absolutely fascinating topic. My background's in the private sector, and as a chief executive, and I started off managing the Dulux brand. So thank you all, anyone who bought it, and sorry about the wasted weekends. But it was all about innovation, you know, and I really learned that it's only people who really care. Let's not get too hung up with the word engagement, are really committed, really believe, really go the extra mile. The only people who get innovation through, inevitably, what big organisations are, which is bureaucracies. And they say they're pro doing new things, and just about everything they do under the banner of risk management processes makes it virtually impossible to get anything new out of the system. Got me incredibly interested, and I went on and managed a number of different scenarios in the private sector. One was a merger of two global organisations. You know the problem there is? About 4 months after the merger, I'm sure many of you have been through them, about 4 months after the merger, you go into a room and there's a big sort of table, and down one side sit all those who came from one history, down the other side the other history, and they glare at each other. You know, they're not really committed, engaged to building a better, stronger future, bringing the resources to both to bear. And when they have their coffee, what do they talk about? The good old times before this lot joined us, and so on. And so it got me. Then I had a spell at the Cabinet Office, and everyone said, well, what possible relevance is the private sector to have to the Cabinet Office? And frankly, it struck me as very similar sets of issues in the public sector and the private sector. So wrote a book on it, and I was delighted when the fickle finger of fate put Nita and I together to write a report. And again, absolutely fascinated. Nita, with a background 5 years in number 10 as Tony Blair's advisor on employee relations, with a background in the union movement, from a very different background, virtually living together for nearly a year. We agreed on just about David, everything.
You promised you wouldn't tell people that.
Well, there we are. So it's something we had a huge amount of interest and resource to bring together. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we found. I'm going to hand over to Nita to talk a bit more specifically about the public sector. It was a report to government, and those of you in the public, I think everyone's in the public sector, those of Whitehall, will recognise the word "to" was terribly important, i.e. we could say what we thought we needed to be said. We had 3 committees to get through, not 33. It was about engagement across the UK economy, so we did look at the private sector, the public sector, and the not-for-profit sector. But our focus was about performance. It was about better performance in the private sector, more success in financial terms, in market share terms, and so on, and in the public sector about better outcomes for citizens. I suppose the issue you might reasonably ask is the topic timely? And just a few thoughts here under the enduring and the current economic. I mean, the CBI have just published a report. You know, chief executives are saying the top issue from the CBI leaders in the private sector saying, engaging my people is the top issue, ahead of recession, ahead of innovation. It's growing in a sense of importance. We'll come on to some of the concerns around that. If you take the small and medium-sized end, 60% of them now saying it's a very important topic, up from 46% 6 months ago. So the kind of topics out there. And of course, if we're going to receive the public services we want, if we're going to be a part of delivering public services that we feel are proud to be a part of, then this topic is absolutely central. And if we look forward a few more years, I mean, what's coming at us? Brazil, Russia, India, China, the BRICS coming at us, the kind of demands of the citizen. I mean, if we can't improve the statistics that Brian put up so effectively, then we will have failed as leaders, I think. So, and then there's this whole issue of the new world of work. You know, when I started, as you can see many years ago, and the boss said, jump, what was the answer? How high? Now, the good, young, some of the ones that Brian spoke about, and indeed some of us some of us are older. When we're asked to jump, what's the answer?
Why?
Why? The whole attitude at work has changed. Information, you know, people used to rule by having more information that they parcelled out bit by bit to the troops. Well, you can Google anything now, can't you? Know almost as much as anyone else. So holding information and passing it out doesn't work. The attitudes inherent in the workplace have changed, and yet the models of leadership are still essentially command and control in far too many places. So the environment is incredibly important, and the challenge is there. So what we did to try and work on this, and what I'm going to say just make a few remarks about is, so what is this thing that's out there, because it comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes? Is there any evidence that it matters? And I will build on the points that Brian made. What enables it? I want to spend a few minutes on what we found, the 4 things we found in organisations that really have got it, really doing it well. And in order to do it, we called on actually some resource from in this room. Thank you very much indeed. But we had over 500 written submissions to our report without really trying very hard to receive them. Lots of consultation events, and we had a guru group of those who were the leading edge of consultancy and academics. We had a practitioner group from the public sector and private sector, all trying to share underneath the statistics, why does this thing work and why does it not work where it doesn't work? So let me share with you a few thoughts that emerged from this. What do we essentially believe? It does go to the heart of the workplace relationship. It is about unlocking the productivity of our people, and as we said, it's about transforming the working lives of many people for whom Monday morning is an especially low part of the week. We did not set our objectives that on Monday morning everyone punches the air and says, whoopee, it's Monday morning. But I bet you can remember, I can remember, working in periods of my career where I just knew it wasn't working. Monday morning was more of an effort, more of a trauma. Things were difficult. It felt the place was full of syrup. It was political. It was difficult, not because we were losing money, not because the minister had done something particularly bizarre. It was just because of the way the organisation was and the way that I was managed. And yet there are other times when, I'm sure you relate, we were in flow. You know, we knew we were making a contribution. We knew it was working. We knew we were doing something worthwhile. And it is essentially about getting to that heart of that workplace relationship. Not about manipulation. This has to be a win for the employee as much as a win for the organisation. So more specifically, we found we stopped counting at 56 definitions of employee. That's fine. Look, you know, if you write a definition that suits your organisation at your place, at your time, suits your context, that's absolutely fine. The sense, though, as we went to these places that were doing it incredibly well, we said, well, how do you do it? And you know, the number of leaders who said to us, public-private sector, said, the thing is, David, Nita, you know it when you see it, which is very clear and deeply unhelpful. But in a sense, when you start to unpick it, it's about how we do what we do in this organisation. It's not about another activity for Friday mornings. It really does work at the level of culture and behaviours. And when it works, you get this thing, don't you? All of us have so much potential and capability. And of course that varies depending on life choices, depending on other things. But that the best organisations get at more of the potential that exists in all of us. And when we're managed badly, we close in and we offer less of our capability and our potential. And at the heart of those doing it well is this respect for people. It's a sense of the value of what people contribute. And boy, did we see it out there in the private sector and in the public sector. Some really eye-watering examples of organisations that are doing this well, and some complete horror stories. But the good stories, they had the value of people. They put the humanity back into their organisations, into the workplace. I am pro-research. I am delighted and fantastically impressed that the Cabinet Office has orchestrated the biggest survey of employee engagement, I'm certain, in the world. But it isn't, that's a stepping stone. It's not about the research. The research is there to give us insights. What it is about is how we move from the insights and the research into what we do about it. So in summary, it's a kind of way of running and managing an organisation or a company. And it puts input, commitment and voice at the heart, and it leads to effectiveness, quality and performance in the organisation.